The aim is to show all of you just how easy it is to build on Hedera, and also to convince you to build as well. While we're at it, we thought we might show you some of the behind the scenes work that goes into actually making that process easy for you, and how we continually make that developer experience better and better. So, Brendan and I will be co presenting this next section.
All right, thanks, Abby. Before we begin, let's very briefly touch on developer relations as a practice area. Not as a whole, but just the parts of it that go into a Hello World experience for developers who are building on Hedera for the first time. So the first step is to know who our developers are, not on an individual basis, but rather in archetypes. So think segmentation, personas. Here we see an example of a developer persona, and it's all the details about a fictitious developer who represents a particular segment of developers that's deemed important. At the bottom, you'll see discover, evaluate, learn, build, scale. And this is where you start designing the developer journey for this particular persona, which segues into the developer journey map. So for each persona, the second step is to map out the details of each stage of the developer journey. This is done by answering the questions that you see at the top and using those to identify internal and external touchpoints, which you see at the bottom. Right, so let's reorient those stages that you saw vertically and think about the developer journey as a series of funnels, each of which has its own conversion rate, meaning that only a percentage of developers in one stage will move on to the next. And let's assume that all of the stages have a conversion rate of 5%. We end up with a vanishingly small number that actually make it through till the end. Next, let's assume that instead of 5%, we have a 10% conversion rate throughout instead. We have a small number that makes it through to the last stage, but it is a significant improvement. The point is that improving this conversion rate has a compounding effect, so it is very high reward. And that brings us to the aim of for this exercise. What a DevRel team would do is to focus on one persona, and for that persona, focus on one stage of their developer journey, and within that stage, focus on one touchpoint. The aim is to optimize that touchpoint. Now, this requires some research to find out exactly when and why a developer stops developing. A usability test is designed to extract these insights, and the DevRel team then conducts the research amongst itself and then rolls out the conduct of that same usability test to the broader community of developers. All right, so now it's time for a live demo, and Abby will be role-playing as a developer from the Web3 emerging segment, right, who is currently in the learn stage of their developer journey with Hedera and is interacting with the Hello World tutorials touchpoint. Here's an example of a flowchart for the conduct of a usability test, which you see on the left, and also some sample questions and prompts on the right. And these are mainly focused on identifying developer friction points. All right, Abby, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's make sure that I've got your screen shared. All right. We see, Abby, we see your screen on the live stream now. All right. So now Abby is, like I mentioned before, Abby is going to role play a participant in a usability test. And so let's begin.
Mm-hmm.
Hi there, Abby. Welcome to the usability test. Thank you very much for participating. Your participation is going to help improve the developer experience on Hedera, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome. So the first thing I would like you to do is to perform a guided usability test. So this is where I'm going to be explicitly telling you what to do next, like one instruction after the next. Okay. The second thing is going to be a guided usability test, which will follow immediately after, where I do not give you any instructions, like specific instructions. I will just tell you, like, accomplish this, and then it's up to you to work out how to do it.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yep.
Awesome. So let's begin. So the first thing I'd like you to do is visit the URL, which I have already sent to you, which I see that you have on the screen. So that's github.com Hedera dev slash 5-minute token launch challenge, right? And I see that you're already there. And in the README, if you can open in Gitpod using the green button. Excellent. So have you used Gitpod before?
I haven't used Gitpod before, no.
Okay, so Gitpod is a cloud development environment which allows you to run a software project and edit it and etc. all within your browser, and you don't have to set anything up on your own computer. So that's why we use it, especially for those who are new to developing on Hedera. Okay, and you can see over here on your screen that you have Visual Studio Code, which is an IDE loaded up, but it's all within the browser. Are you familiar with using VS Code?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Excellent. Okay, so you'll feel right at home, except that it's now inside of your browser. If you could you hit, I'm assuming you're on Mac, could you hit Command plus 3 or 4 times so that the font size is larger? That just makes it easier for me to see. Thank you very much. Okay, so the first thing I'd like you to do is go to the terminal, and you can see a line in purple saying, please enter values requested or accept defaults, right? And then there's a few prompts. So I'd like you to just follow my instructions as to how to fill in these prompts. So for the BIP39 seed phrase, just hit enter, and it'll generate a new one for you at random. And then for number of accounts, just hit enter, and you'll get several accounts. Likewise, for JSON RPC endpoint, just hit enter again to accept the default that's been set up for you. And finally, for operator account, we want to use the first one that's been generated from our BIP39 seed phrase. So again, just hit enter to accept the default. All right. Now, do not hit enter. Copy that EVM address, which is the one in bold that starts with 0x45. Just copy that. Yep. And then open up faucet.hedera.com. You can hold down Command and click on that URL. Excellent. Thanks. Okay, now here, paste the address inside of that text box. Press the receive button. And then pass that captcha test. And press confirm. All right. So we see successfully sent, which means that this account has been funded, and we're good to go. So you can close this faucet tab now. Excellent. Okay, so now we're back in Gitpod, and go back to the terminal. And now that we funded the account, now we can press enter. All right, so it's doing its thing where it's checking the accounts and creating new ones for you. And now it's saying, okay, here is a .env file. Now, if you can, go to the list of files on the left and open up the file that's named .env. Excellent. Okay, so this is the default file with nothing in it. Now, if you go back to the terminal and hit Y followed by enter, right, and you can see the .env file has been initialized with whatever our inputs have done earlier on. So this allows us to start using the script in the file, and that brings us to the end of the guided usability test, right? Now, how did you feel about that? Was there anything about that tricky or confusing?
No, everything went really smooth. I was able to fund my account pretty easily. And then I have some nice accounts created for me with just pressing enter over and over again.
Yeah. I'm glad that you appreciate that. Now, the next part is maybe going to be a little bit more difficult because it's going to be unguided. So what I'd like you to do at this point is to verbalize your thoughts. In other words, what are you thinking? What are you considering, etc. Just narrate it out loud for me, so that I can sort of assess what you're, so that I know how you're approaching the task at hand. Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay, excellent. And so for the guided usability test, your task, right, is to launch a fungible token on the Hedera testnet. And the clue is that the script has been provided for you already. That gets you almost all the way, and it's inside the src folder within this repo. So take it away.
Okay, great, thank you. So I see here that in my source folder, I have a JavaScript file that seems to have a lot of code already done for me. The first thing that I'm going to do is probably read a little bit about it and figure out if the comments are going to tell me anything. So here I see that we have a function called script 5-minute HTS token launch challenge. It's reading some environment variables. It's initializing the operator accounts, which look like they're coming out of the .env file. And let's see. It's taking that information, saving it into these variable names. And it looks like this is going to be setting up a client. I'm not quite sure what a client is going to do just yet, but it looks like it really needed that operator ID, which was in my environment variable, and a key as well. Here it looks like we're setting the token name, token symbol, and there's a lot more code. So I think I'd like to just start figuring out what it does. So I'm going to try and run it. I'm going to clear my console really quick. I'm going to use Node and check my directory first. Looks like I'm not in the right directory, so I'm going to change into the source folder. Then I'll use Node to execute this JavaScript file.
Mm-hmm.
So here it says, welcome to the challenge. It's reading from the environment file. I can see my account, configuring new HTS token. Looks like I can click on this, see where it takes me. Okay, so it looks like this is where I am in the code at the moment. So I expect that it's going to run all of this. Let me go ahead and hit enter to proceed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, looks like I got an error. Let's see. Error must configure a name, a symbol, an initial supply for the new token at this line. Let me go ahead and click on that. Oh, yep. So it looks like it doesn't like these empty strings right here. So I'm going to have to give my token name a name. I'll just call it test token, and symbol will be TST. Go ahead and save that file. And let me just run it again, see if I run into any other errors. Gonna hit enter again. Oh, looks like I forgot the initial supply. So didn't like 0. Go ahead and set that to 7,000. Try to run that again. At this point, I'm kind of thinking if there's a set of instructions that maybe I should have been following.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go ahead and look at this README. There's a lot of words here, so it's okay. So I'm going to abandon the README for now, and I'm just going to continue looking at the purples because the purple seems friendly. Creating the new HTS token, hit the return key when I'm ready to proceed. So it looks like I was actually able to get past one of my errors, and the transaction ID was created, and here's a URL that I could click on. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. It looks like this hash scan looks a little interesting. Everything's none. That doesn't seem right to me. I'm not quite sure why, though. Going to continue creating the new HTS token. Oh, look at that. Now there's a new token ID. So it looks like here we were just configuring something. Now I'd like to view it. Yes, I'd like to view this on HashScan. So, oh, look at that. So I completed the challenge. If I go back to HashScan, I can see that here's the name of my token, here's the symbol, and my supply of 7,000 is where it's supposed to be. Looks like there's some summary metrics. I wonder what that does. Has completed a task. Looks like it's true. I was successful in doing that. Completed the first task named 5-minute HTS token launch challenge. Took me 9 minutes. And looks like I completed some more tasks. Okay. It looks like I can see my metrics on HashScan. That's pretty cool. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'd like to come back to the facilitator and sort
Yep.
of show that I finished, and if there's anything else that you'd like me to do.
No, that's excellent. Thank you very much for doing that. So that was the unguided challenge, and based on such minimal instruction, and essentially me not saying anything much, you were able to complete it. So that's great. And before I tell you my observations, how about yours? Like, what did you think? Was there any part where you think it could be improved?
Yeah, I think after you leave me from the guided one, it'd be great if you pointed me to the instructions that I should probably start from.
Mm-hmm.
And then in addition, I feel like some of the instructions here were difficult to read. So I ended up just going through the purple ones, but the purple ones actually worked pretty well. I liked the conciseness of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, Yeah, thank you very much for that. One of the things I wanted to point out was that I learned something today about this tutorial, which is that the hashcan URL for the transaction was printed out slightly before it should have been, right? So if you refresh this now, you will see that there's a
Um,
transaction. So the reason for that was that it printed it out while the transaction existed locally, but hadn't been processed by the network yet. So I need to modify the tutorial such that it happens one step later rather than where it was. So that's a blind spot which we have identified together today.
yeah, that was
Um,
confusing.
yeah, the and the other thing is if you go back to Gitpod, I just wanted to ask you what you thought about the summary metrics.
Yeah, the summary metrics were interesting. I felt like it took me less time than 9 minutes here.
Hmm.
So I wasn't sure what the difference between this time to first task and this time taken to complete
Ah,
is.
right. Yeah, perhaps I should include an explanation for that in the tutorial. So the time to first task completion, like on the third line of the output, that refers to time to hello world, right? So that includes everything like doing all the setup script plus running the tutorial itself, which is, the script. So that's what it's after. But then if you take a look at the completed tasks, you can see that you have time taken to complete for the first time and the final time that you did it. And so basically it indicates that you've done it 3 times and successful on the third time, and this is the duration that you took. Yeah. So so that's the idea. Yeah. So did you feel like it lived up to the name of 5-minute token launch challenge?
I feel like it really did.
Awesome.
I also
Okay.
really like the consensus service being used here. Where is it? Right here.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thank you very much, Abby, for participating in this usability test.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay. So that's the end of the usability test. So, now we're back to not role play mode. And I hope you took away from it a couple of things. One is that we do have a 5-minute token launch challenge, and we encourage all of you to take part in it as well. So it is very minimal input. I think the version 1 of that tutorial would have taken just 20 to 30 minutes for the average developer to even set up the prerequisites on their computer. But now that's all automated and scripted and running in the cloud via Gitpod. So, as we saw just now, it took, just a few minutes to get ready. The second thing is that I hope that you take away is that here at Hedera, the DevRel team is constantly trying to improve the developer experience for all of you. So, and this is one of the tools that we use to do it, and you've seen it live in action as well. So, in the future, we'll be running more usability tests, and rather than role playing, we'd like to do it on actual developers from the Hedera community, which is yourselves, all of you tuning in. So, when that happens, be sure to sign up as participants.